Hello YouTube, welcome back to Nutkin Farm. Well, it's all happening today. Here at the farmhouse, I've got some people lining my concrete water tank, which over the years, I think before I bought the farm, became a bit leaky and it had some dodgy repairs, which you can do to concrete tanks, but eventually after they get 20 or 30 years old, they tend to break down a bit and start leaking, and it's enormously expensive to replace them. But what you can do is use the existing structure and put in a polyethylene lining, a very heavy duty polyethylene lining that holds the water in the existing structure. So that's getting done today, and certainly advice for anyone looking for a farm: if it's got concrete tanks, check and see if they've been repaired previously or if they're leaking, because it usually means you put your hand in your pocket to fix them. And the fix is about $4,000 for a 40,000 litre tank, and that's par for the course, but a lot cheaper than a new concrete tank. You can also put in poly tanks, which cost about the same as the lining actually, but it's the removal of the concrete tank, and particularly the tipping fees, that can really sort of sting you. So in my case, lining was the answer. Now down here in block 2, you can see my last harvest going on. We've got the Carraro harvester in from my contractors. There's a real crossover, isn't there? Because you've got all these flowering on the 344s here, and these ones are particularly healthy because I'm showing you the ones that get full exposure to sunlight. But there's nuts on the ground. They're being picked up. The harvester is picking up a fair bit of grass, unfortunately, at this time of year, and not easy to manage because the nuts under the grass are fairly well, there's a fair few of them, but it makes it for slow going because our contractor there has to keep cleaning out the finger wheels. So I'll leave him to that at the moment, so he's probably cursing, and I'll show you what we've got so far. Now, I've had surprisingly a large amount of interest in the harvest in this year, so I'll tell you what we've got this year. This is a 15-metre skip, 15 metres cubed. So the last one we got was 8 metres cubed, and we managed to fill it, but it wasn't a complete harvest. So this time we thought, let's get up every nut we can, and Hillmac have given us their biggest skip, 15 square metres, and it's got some nuts in it already, but we'll see if we can fill that. At this point, last harvest, we've got some leaves, we've even got some fallen flowers in the harvest, but it'll all get sorted out in the long run. And like before, I'll report back on what that actually means in terms of nut. But yeah, so the contractor's there. Obviously they're harvesting nut. The contractors cost money to hire on an hourly and daily basis, but while there's more nut on the ground that's worth picking up, the maths work out fine in terms of it is worth investing the money to get up every last nut before the close of season and before we consider any spraying. So I've brought you over to block 4, and you can see the flowering, if you've got a big screen again, up the top of the 344s and down the side on those trees, but then you turn around and go into the more shaded rows and there's almost no flowers anywhere near where I'm standing. They're all up the top of the tree, and I can see them up the top of the tree if I look hard enough. But gosh, it's a good example, if you need any, of why you need to keep tree height down and spend the money on doing that, because obviously you want flowers up and down the side of the trees as well as on the top. Many more square metres of flowers means many more nuts per tree, and this is why people invest in row removal and pruning in order to get that light exposure back to the trees. If it means removing every second row, that's actually okay, because you're using all the available sunlight eventually anyway, and you'll get, roughly the same crop from half the number of trees over time. It's something that happens over time. And of course, that costs a farmer money as well. You're seeing a recurring theme by now. People often ask what other outlays are there on a macadamia farm. Well, council rates aren't the same as residential council rates. My rates are about $4,000 from Lismore Council. When you buy a farm as an investment, you don't pay land tax like you would if you were buying units or houses. So rural properties aren't subject to land tax. Thank goodness for that. I would be broke. There's local land services. They charge rates, but they're tiny. They're about $100 a year. It's something to think about, of course. And the other real cost, and the point of this video, is insurance. Now, insurance premiums have gone up worldwide, and being an insurance lawyer, I can give you some insight into the industry. When there are natural disasters anywhere in the world, insurers have what's called reinsurance, that is, insurance for the insurance companies, to cover these really big risks that they otherwise couldn't pay out themselves. And when there are natural disasters, whether they be in Lismore flooding or earthquakes somewhere or tsunami, the premiums for everyone tend to go up, because the reinsurance premiums that all the insurers pay around the world go up as well, and they pass those costs on. So people have got a shock this year when they've received renewals for their farm insurance. Mine nearly doubled from close to $5,000 to $10,000 on the policy I had, and as an annual fee, obviously you're paying nearly $1,000 a month for insurance on those sorts of premiums, and that's a pretty heavy cost to bear. And look, I'm negotiating that and hoping to get some better deal, and obviously looking around for other insurance companies as well, and that's fine. I know insurers fairly well. I know their reputations for paying claims. I know the fine print when I read it, and I'm one of those annoying people who can and will read the fine print and, best of all, understand it. So I can see what I can do to make that sting a little bit less. But I'm in the same postcode as Lismore. Lismore got flooded, and I think, there's some insurance companies who don't want to touch anything with the same postcode as Lismore, even though we have none of the same risks as Lismore from flooding. Anyway, there will be farmers who are looking at their insurance renewals and going, geez, do I need this? Or, what insurance do I really need on a macadamia farm? The products that are available tend to be in the form of packs. So you can pick about 10, 15 different kinds of insurance, and you can buy what you feel you need, or, what a broker advises you need, that sort of thing. And look, if you picked all 15, the premium would be so high, you might as well give up. You've got to pick what you think is necessary. For example, in some policies, you can insure your trees, but it doesn't cover everything, and there's a limit, because, it covers the cost of replanting trees. Obviously doesn't cover any income lost from trees, really, although you can get some personal accident and income replacement. If you get injured, you can put that in your policy. You can put your cars in your policy. You can put your standard home and contents in your policy as well. And you can put together a package of insurance that basically covers most of the kinds of insurance you need, even for cars and things that you take off the farm. So they're sophisticated products, but you'd be surprised at the sort of inclusions that they have and they don't have. Obviously, farm sheds are a kind of building, and you can insure farm sheds against loss and damage. Any other farm buildings, that's pretty easy. Fences, well, you have to, probably specify if you want fences covered. And farm machinery is usually one of the standard picks. but the standard things it covers are damage to it. So if a tree falls on your tractor, it'll cover that, or if there's some natural disaster, you're usually restricted to certain kinds of natural disaster, it'll cover that as well. What it doesn't cover, though, might surprise you. Most of us adults have motor vehicles, and we know that motor vehicle insurance covers, if you get comprehensive cover, covers things, damage you do to other people, other people's property, as well as damage to the car itself. There's a lower level of cover, which is third-party fire and theft, so that if you damage someone else's car, it covers the damage to that car, but it won't cover damage to your own car. It does, however, cover you if the vehicle is burned in a fire, and it covers it if the vehicle is stolen. Now, farm insurance for farm vehicles, and by farm vehicles I mean the kind of things you can't register: tractors, mowers, harvesters, other effectively motorised equipment. Quad bikes can be included in there, although they're sometimes in other definitions. All-terrain vehicles, basically stuff that never leaves a farm place except to do other farming work, perhaps. The policies I've read, and I've now read several of them, don't, as a standard thing, cover theft. And it's taken me a while to do this video because I've just been too upset about it. But over here in my farm shed, I have 2 spare wheels that are the last remaining signs of my zero-turn mower. I had one horror week back in July when I came down with COVID. The tenant house nearby was being painted and so wasn't occupied, and someone came into my shed, obviously with a trailer, and took my zero-turn mower and ran off with it. Now, the police have been as helpful as they can be, which isn't especially helpful, but you know, they've had forensics around, and there have been a rash of thefts in the area. A neighbouring farm had a motorbike, generator, fridge, a bunch of other things stolen, and that was from a lock shed. My one, better than my one. They broke in and stole those things. So, by all means, leave your comments below. It's okay. I've come to terms with it now. It's a dead loss to me. I have to replace the mower. It's going to cost me about 30 grand to do that, and unfortunately mowers, like other motor vehicles, are on a lengthy wait period. And I've had offers of help from friends and all that sort of stuff. So look, I'll be fine. I'll get there, but it is a very heavy blow. And for an insurance lawyer like me to learn of this event and then go scrambling for my insurance policy and realise that the standard cover for farm machinery did not include theft was a real shock. Right? That shouldn't have happened to me. I'm better qualified than that. But if it can happen to me, it can happen to a whole lot of other people as well. And so, while I really, really didn't want to make this video and make an example out of myself, I thought that it was the best thing to do, because if I can save one person from a similar fate to what I've been through, this video will have been worth it. Check your insurance policies, guys. I know that theft isn't a regular thing, and in fact, Peter Fraser, my neighbour who's been doing this for years, has said as much. He said, look, the whole area will go without crime for 10 years at a time, and then someone will come and do over the place and take what they can. And the only remedy, he says, is good insurance, although obviously there are other security measures you can take in modern technology, and I'll be looking into those for sure. At the end of the day, even a locked shed wasn't enough for my neighbouring farmer who suffered losses nearly equal to mine. So, what's the moral of the story? Well, when you get farm insurance, if you're looking at buying a farm or if you own a farm, there are a bewildering array of choices. One of those choices should be theft of farm machinery. because as much as we like to think this is paradise where everyone's, you know, hail fellow well met and nobody commits crimes, unfortunately, it encourages people to let their guard down. And when that happens, unfortunately, they, like me, were easy pickings for hardened thieves who came along and stole the means of my production at the farm. And, you know, you might think, how can you imagine such a low act happening? Well, you kind of have to imagine it and protect yourself against it, because it's real. It happened to me. It's happened to other farms in the area. And I don't really see any prospect of getting my mower back, even though I've been scanning the forums and Gumtree and various others to see if someone's trying to flog it off. So please, if you do insure a farm, review your policy, make sure your equipment's covered. And just as a general thing, for most of the policies I've read, you do need to list your machinery individually. Right? They sometimes provide unspecified cover for farm machinery, but that's for little stuff. That's for things like pole saws or chainsaws or stuff like that. For anything that is a seriously valuable vehicle, you need to list it, and that probably includes serial numbers, models, years, that sort of stuff, and, you know, keep photos of everything you have as well, so that if any insurance adjuster wants to see photos of anything that's stolen, you'll have them there, as it's too late after it's stolen to take a photo. So, guys, I want you to learn from my lesson, and because it is a painful lesson, it's financially very painful, and I hope that you know, if people are buying second-hand equipment, you also need to check that it's not been stolen, because, you know, you might pay you good money for a machine off someone, but if it wasn't theirs in the first place, all you're doing is giving them money and you're not actually buying the legal right to the goods that you're buying. So, you know, and again, you know, people at the moment are desperate for equipment because there's such a long lead time for new stuff. Yeah, it pays to be careful. I know that, you know, Lismore is a little bit of a hotbed of crime at the moment because there are a lot of desperate people following the floods. Not that it's an excuse for doing what they've done. But, yeah, it's time to be careful. Check your insurance. Make sure it covers what you think it covers. But above all, make sure it covers machinery theft. Now, I have a lovely sunny day ahead of me. The harvest's happening. That'll pay for some of a new mower, I hope. And we'll, you know, I'm not going to stay down about it. Like I said, I waited so long before making this video because I was really very emotional about it at the time. And didn't think it was really worth having a complete spit on YouTube, because most of you guys tune in to hear good things. Have a lovely day wherever you are. And I will talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.